Although we have a little bit, some nice books to show from the cinema collection, the vintage cinema collection. Let's take a look at it right now. So this is on Screen Lovers, different couples from the screen, from the vintage, the old cinema by Ann Billeson. And let's take a look at some of these. That's Glenn Ford and Rita Hayworth. Glenn Ford, Rita Hayworth. Let's take a look at some of these vintage black and white photographs. Forward by Stuart Granger. You can take a look at that if you wish. And that is Robert Mitchum, and who's Lorraine Day in the locket. And with Robert Mitchum. Lorraine Day and Robert Mitchum. May Irwin and John C. Rice in The Kiss. 1896. We'll go fast through it. We'll go quickly. So this way we can make it into a smaller video these days. Not everybody has time to look through a whole video. Ann Billeson. She's the author. Let's take a look at some of the pictures here. Without saying too much, Julian Sands and Helena Barnum Carter in A Room with a View, 1985. Audrey Hepburn and Sean Connery in Robin and Marion. We'll show some of the photographs and the writing on it. And then move on. That's Rita Hayworth. I know who that is. So anyway, these are the classic couples, the classic screen couples. That's Lillian Gish and John Gilbert. Oh, that looks like, let's see, who is that? Oh, Greta Garbo and Robert Taylor and Camille, 1936, Camille. That's Greta Garbo and Robert Taylor. That's Cary Grant. And who could that be? Grace Kelly in To Catch a Thief. This is Cary Grant and Grace Kelly, To Catch a Thief. Patricia Neal and Gary Cooper in The Fountainhead. Patricia Neal and Gary Cooper in The Fountainhead. That's like a film noir type. That's a classic Art Deco, probably. The photography in it. Rebecca De Mornay and Tom Cruise in Risky Business, 1983. I remember that one. Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant in Bringing Up Baby, 1938. Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. And It Happened One Night. These are the old trains, or the old buses that they had. Looks like a train. Where they had overnight sleepers. This is Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman in Indiscreet. Henry Fonda and Barbara Stenwick in The Lady Eve. Jean Harlow and Clark Gable in Hold Your Man. Gunnar Gordstrand and Ulla Jacobson in Summeretton's Landis. Smiles of a Summer Night, 1955. Smiles of a Summer Night. That was by Ingmar Bergman. Ingmar Bergman, the great Swedish, I think, director. John Barrymore and Carol Lombard in the 20th Century, 1934. The 20th Century. That's John Barrymore and Carol Lombard. That's Humphrey Bogart, and that looks like Ingrid Bergman. In Casablanca, of course. In Casablanca. Ava Gardner and James Mason in Pandora and the Flying Dutchman. Leslie Howard and Ingrid Bergman in Intermezzo, 1939. That's Greta Garbo in Queen Christina, 1933. Celia Johnson and Trevor Howard in Brief Encounter, 1948. These are the classic couples, classic screen couples. Chloe Webb and Gary Oldman and Sid and Nancy. Joseph Cotton and Jennifer Jones in Portrait of Jenny. Al Pacino and Martha Keller and Bobby Deerfield. Jeff Bridges and Glenn Close in Jagged Edge. Ryan O'Neal and Ally McGraw in Love Story. That was a classic. Ryan O'Neal and Ally McGraw in Love Story. James Dean. And who's he with? Natalie Wood in Rebel Without a Cause, 1955. Rebel Without a Cause, 1955. Vivian Lee and Robert Taylor in Waterloo Bridge, 1940. Danielle Derieux and Charles Boyer in Mayerling, 1936. This is Frederick Murray. And who's that? Barbara Strenwick. Frederick Murray in Double Indemnity. Kathleen Turner and William Hurt in Body Heat, 1981. Claire Calamai and Messina Girotti in Obsession, 1942. Lana Turner and John Garfield in The Postman Always Rings Twice, 1946. John Garfield and Lana Turner in The Postman Always Rings Twice, 1946. A lot of pictures here, many pictures. Jane Greer and Robert Mitchum, Out of the Past, 1947. And then this is Faye Dunaway and Jack Nicholson in Chinatown, 1974. One is 1974 and one is 1947. Madeleine Carroll and Robert Dunant in The 39 Steps. The 39 Steps. Madeleine Carroll and Robert Dunant in The 39 Steps. Oh, this is that The Eyewitness, or it's called The Witness. This is Kelly McGillis and Harrison Ford in Witness. Here it is, Witness. Sylvia Sidney and Henry Fonda in You Only Live Once. Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint in North by Northwest. Very classic couples and photos. Photos in black and white. Roger Livesey and Wendy Hiller in I Know Where I'm Going. Wendy Hiller was also in Pygmalion. Before that, Pygmalion. I think that might have been with that great actor. Think of him. We can try to think of him later. So this is Roger Livesey and Wendy Hiller in I Know Where I'm Going, 1945. So Wendy Hiller is from also Pygmalion. Oh, Rex Harrison. Wendy Hiller and Rex Harrison. Rex Harrison played Professor Higgins, and Wendy Hiller was the protege, the girl that he was teaching to speak very, very good English. He wanted to take her from being a flower girl to being part of very high society, to be able to pass, as it were, in high society. Sam Shepard and Jessica Lange in Country, 1984. Sean Penn and Madonna in Shanghai Surprise, 1986. Oh, this is a classic. This is, I think this is Woody Allen, obviously, in Manhattan. Woody Allen, Diane Keaton, Woody Allen in Manhattan. Gerard Depardieu and Fanny Ardant in La Femme de Côte, The Woman Next Door, 1981. John Cassavetes and Gina Rollins in Love Screams, 1984. Oh, this is the great actor, Orson, what is it? Orson Welles and Rita Hayworth in The Lady from Shanghai. Orson Welles and Rita Hayworth in The Lady from Shanghai. And that is Paul Newman and who else? Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward in The Long Hot Summer, 1958. The Long Hot Summer. Brigitte Bardot and Jean-Louis Trintignant in Ed de Crête la Femme, and God Created Woman, 1956. Irving G. Thalberg and Norma Shearer, 1927. McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Julie Christie and Warren Beatty. McCabe and Mrs. Miller. Sandra Locke and Clint Eastwood in Any Which Way You Can. Sandra Locke and Clint Eastwood in Any Way You Can, 1980. Marlana Dietrich in Shanghai Express, 1932. Marlana Dietrich. Charles Bronson and Jill Ireland in Valdez, Il Mazzangue, Valdez the Half-Breed, 1973. That's Charles Bronson and Jill Ireland. Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski in Dance of the Vampires, the fearless vampire killers. Or Pardon Me, But Your Teeth Are in My Neck, 1967. Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski in Dance of the Vampires, 1967. Mel Ferrer and Audrey Hepburn in War and Peace. Mel Ferrer and Audrey Hepburn. War and Peace. Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford in The Taming of the Shrew, 1929. Mary Pickford. The Taming of the Shrew. Charlie Chaplin and Paulette Goddard in Modern Times. Dolores Costello and John Barrymore in When a Man Loves, 1926. That looks like Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall in The Big Sleep, 1946. Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy in Without Love. This is Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner in Romancing the Stone. Robert De Niro, Meryl Streep in Falling in Love. Robert De Niro and Meryl Streep, Falling in Love. That was 1984. Those are two at 1984. Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni in Matrimonio all'Italiana. Marriage, Italian Style, 1964. Mayuki Mori and Machiko Kyo in Ugetsu Monogatari. A Japan screen theme familiar to Western audiences through such films as this, Kenji Mizuguchi's tale of a humble potter Mori who falls in love with a beautiful ghost, Kyo. Jane Fonda, Donald Sutherland, Jane Fonda and Clute, 1971, and John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara in McClintock, 1963. Doris Day and Rock Hudson in Lover Come Back, 1961. Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon in Beach Party, 1963. This is 1961. Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Keeper of the Flame, 1942. Greer Garson and Walter Pidgeon in his Mrs. Miniver, 1942. Ellen Gill and Michael Wilding in the Spring Park Lane, 1948. Donald O'Connor and Peggy Ryan in Patrick the Great, 1944. Danny Kaye and Virginia Mayo in a song born 1948. Okay, we'll just go through without saying too much over here. Oh, this is the Big Chill. The Big Chill. Richard Gere and Deborah Winger and an officer and the gentleman, 1981. Oh, that's Michael Klingler's Fatal Attraction. Across the Pacific. What can that be? Woody Allen and Diane Keaton Played Against Sam, 1972. Bob and Carol, Ted and Alice. Elliot Gould, Natalie Wood, Robert Culp, and Diane Keaton. In Bob and Carol, Ted and Alice, 1969. Joan Paul Belmondo and Anna Karina in Pera del Fuego, 1965. Jean Paul Belmondo. Veronica Vitti and Alain Delon in Eclipse, 1962. That's Monica Vitti and Alain Delon, Eclipse. Jean-Paul Belmondo and Anna Karina in Perrault Le Faux, 1965. And Elliot Gould and Natalie Wood, Robert Culp and Diane Cannon, Bob and Carol Tell and Ted Nellis, 1969. Oh, this is Alfie, 1966. Shirley Ann Field and Albert Finney on Saturday night and Sunday morning, 1960. Beryl Reid and Susanna York in The Killing of Sister George, 1968. Oh, that's Steve McQueen and Natalie Wood Natalie Wood, In Love with a Proper Stranger, 1963. This is Elizabeth Taylor. Oh, haven't had much about her. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Harry Belafonte, Joan Fontaine in Island in the Sun, 1957. Gloria Swanson and William Holden in Sunset Boulevard. Gloria Swanson and William Holden, Sunset Boulevard. 1915. Harry Belafonte, Joan Fontaine in Island in the Sun, 1957. Troy Donahue and Sandra Dee in The Summer Place, 1959. Mary Murphy, Marlon Brando in The Wild One, 1954. Oh, Some Like It Hot. This is Marilyn Monroe and Tony Curtis, Some Like It Hot. Oh, this is W.C. Fields and Mae West in My Little Chickadee, 1940. Betty Davis and Paul Enreid in Now Voyager. Paul Enreid. Mary Astor and Herbert Marshall in Young Ideas. Clark Gable and Vivian Lee. Oh, Robert Taylor in Waterloo Bridge, 1940. Okay, Robert Taylor and Vivian Lee. Vivian Lee was, of course, in that great story about the South. Let's see if it tells you anything about here. It's supposed to be the best story there ever was. Vivian Lee, and Robert Taylor. Malana Dietrich, Shanghai Express, 1934. What was the name of that movie? That's Vivian Lee and Clark Gable were in. Somebody knows it. Cary Grant, Merle Oberon, and The Cowboy and the Lady. Can't seem to remember it right now. That Clark Gable and Vivian Lee. A big classic, a classic. Gloria Swanson and Why Change Your Wife, 1920. Clark Gable and Joan Crawford in Possessed. Greta Garbo and Gavin Gordon in Romance, 1930. Okay, so we're at the beginning here. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Take care.